Hey, peace world. Thanks for pressing play on another movie review from Pay Me No Mind. My name is Wood. Hey, do me a favor, man. Consider subscribing to the channel. And if you like the way that I break any of this stuff down, please, hit that like button before getting out of here. And also, man, with the project like this movie that I'm getting ready to discuss, Uncorked, I would love to chop it up with you more about what you thought about the project. I started to live stream this so I could really talk about it the way that I wanted to, but I'm just doing what I'm doing. So anyway, I got like 5 points that I'm gonna talk about. 5 observations that I made. One that I had from watching the project. One is the black father in America. There's an important lesson that's here for like career minded or young black professionals or young black entrepreneurs. There's a very important lesson that they handle in here, and I love the way that they portrayed it. There's also some beautiful traditional or traditional characteristics of the black family. I love that they showed that. I love the love story between Elijah and Tanya. I thought they handled that phenomenally. And then I got a spoiler that I'll touch on. But I want to start this with shout out to Datari Turner. He's the producer behind this thing. He started out in the aughts. I'm sorry, as a probably in the late '90s as a male lead in R&B videos. I want to say, but that's kind of as a model, and he got into producing movies and whatnot. I believe after 9/11. So that was 2001. Over the last 19 years or so, he's produced like 30 projects. He's doing his thing with African American film fests and the film fest circuit and independent movies and all of that type of stuff. So read up on him. One thing that I want to salute the brother for. It's a quote from him that I found in his article on lasentinel.net by author Sabine Roberson. And this was back in June of 2019. But I love what Datari says here. He says, so in the article it starts, furthermore, understanding the responsibility as a black man in the industry, the role and privilege he owns being able to control much of what he produces and who is involved. The quote is, the imagery that people see on television shapes how people think and shape what they believe in, Turner says, explaining, I just want to be behind producing conversation pieces and putting out content that is going to portray people looking like me in a positive light. I want to bring attention to things that need more awareness brought to them. And that's everything. That's why I do what I do. That's what this channel, it's one of the underpinnings of what I'm doing here on Pay Me No Mind. I want people that look like me to be out here in this space in a positive light. So this movie, man, getting into a couple of things here. The synopsis is Elijah must balance his dream of becoming a master sommelier with his father's expectation that he carry on the family's Memphis barbecue joint. I'm very disheartened when I come on here to IMDb TV and Rotten Tomatoes, and I see on IMDb the score, and the movie just started streaming on the 27th of March, so just a few days ago. But it sits at 6.4 in its score on IMDb. That's horrible, and that's off the mark. And then on RottenTomatoes.com, the tomato meter is actually 91% by like people that review movies for a living. So that's great because that's accurate. I would give this movie an A. A solid A, not even an A minus. I legit would give this movie an A. The audience score though is 63%, and I could go into some other things there if you want to discuss that in the comment section, but that's BS. The movie is great. So that's that. Really quickly, I tried to just do this a few minutes ago, and the damn video was like it's 17 minutes, and I was trying to keep this rather short. Here I am already at 5, so I'm getting ready to go into my 5 points. The first one, the role, the black father. It's just an ever-changing figure in America, and you can go a lot of ways with this. But what I see it is that Elijah's dad, Lewis, is played by Courtney B. Vance. And it's one of his better roles and really shows some range that I didn't know he had in terms of the comedy the natural comedy, the way that it naturally occurs between him and Niecy Nash, who plays the mother of Elijah. But Lewis is from that era where his dad had a very myopic view of what there was probably even no concept for something like career and or education or secondary education. And it's kind of like the movie Fences with Denzel's character there, and how Denzel's limited view really hurt his son going out into the world and getting off to good footing, because he's battling his dad and his dad's demons and his father, the shortcomings that had Denzel's character all messed up. And so Lewis here, he wanted to be a teacher, if you watch the movie, and he couldn't go off and be a teacher because he took over the family business of running his barbecue spot in Memphis, Tennessee. Shout out to Memphis, Tennessee as being the backdrop of this wonderful story. And so that's where Elijah is sitting here struggling. And it's not even the most contentious relationship between Elijah and his father. It's just kind of mild. And I like that it's mild because it's very believable. But, Lewis kind of, he has to come around to understanding what his son is passionate about and going back into his own upbringing and him getting out to be a young man and how that made him feel not being able to pursue what he had an interest in. And he has to accept that Elijah pushes back and wants to go out on his own and do what he wants to do. And then we also see Elijah due to some things that unfold in the story where he has to soften up his stance and be less self-centered. And it's kind of a real gentle kind of vast, I can't think of the word, but I just like the way that it was handled. But that's just a very interesting figure. I think black men in kind of the generation of Lewis, and I like how they handled it. I like that they took the time to build that story the way that that they handled it. This important lesson for young black career-minded young people out there. It's an important lesson here where the main character, Elijah, he clashes with a very know-it-all type of character in this cat named Harvard. It's a white guy. And he's very confident in what he knows about wine. This whole movie revolves around Elijah wanting to become a sommelier. He's very interested in wine and wants to become a sommelier, which is a very limited, it's a small fraternity. It's only like 230 of these master wine people who, pass this very difficult test and become, and have this distinction. And Harvard is a character who went to Harvard. I can't remember if he graduated or not, but he goes up and volunteers, and there's this blind tasting that goes on throughout the movie. And and you have to just talk about the characteristics of, you know, a wine, and you have to taste it and break down all of the elements of it, and tell, you know, the teacher where this wine came from, what kind it is, you know, a Pinot, a Cabernet, Chardonnay, so on and so forth. But Elijah gets in here coming from his background. They clash. And you think it's going to be this adversarial relationship between these two, or it's going to be where the conflict is. And they, right after you meet Harvard and Elijah get together, and you don't know where this is going to go. Because Elijah is already like, man, this dude is on some BS and I don't like him. But the lesson is, Harvard asked him to join his, he realizes that Elijah has this passion and knows what he's talking about. And he offers him to come into his study group and points out to him that I don't care how talented you think you are and what you think you know. The key to getting through this thing is being a part of a strong team. And so here it is, these two alphas basically, I guess. And what the lesson is that I think as a black man, it's going to be a lot of times where everybody in the room and what you're trying to do, everybody in there doesn't look like you. And so you might need to let all the BS go, and all of the racial differences and all of that stuff. You might have to put all that to the side and really tap into the people who are really going to be allies and who are really going to be helpful, and navigate through this in a smart way and take advantage of the people that can really help you get to where you're trying to go, regardless of what the color of their skin is or what their background is. Basically, you keep it real with someone that keeps it real with you. And Harvard came over there and initiated, hey, I know you don't think much of me or you think whatever, but let's get together and make this happen because we're the best in this class. So I think that's a very important lesson for younger people. The traditional characteristics of the black family. It gets to a point in here where Elijah needs to go. The family knew Elijah had shied away from challenges previously. And he's been a quitter when things got tough. He's quit in the past. But once he gets going with going to this school and working towards this exam to become a sommelier, it comes to a point in the film. Of course, there's a challenge, or there's a hurdle, and him and Harvard and the other two the other two characters in this class, there's a chance for them to go over to Paris for a month in an exchange program and get some more, training on wine. And but it costs money. And how can Elijah, he's definitely not coming from a family of means, but the family joins together. Long story short, the family joins together, pools together their money, and they all chip in to help him get over to Paris. And I just thought that was very dope. None of them knew what the hell a sommelier. And it's a lot of comedy that happens around about sommelier and sommelier. And that's like great humor there, especially from Niecy Nash and the other members of the family that, like I said, didn't even know that this profession existed. But it's just beautifully done here to where they all get together and they wish him well and come together as a family and give him a good send off to go over there to Paris and chase his dream. So we've seen that in the 80s, in the 70s, in the 60s. We've seen that. So I just love that they included that look in there. Writing down some timestamps. Also, the black love, the way that this is portrayed in the movie is just a welcome sight. Elijah and Tanya, they meet. Elijah is not this womanizer. He's not, chasing pennies and all of that. And, the movie it doesn't go down that road of just hit it and quit, so on and so forth. It's just a very normal courtship. They meet, there's an attraction, boy meets girl, girl is interested. He gets off, the relationship starts off a little clumsy. He gets a second chance, he shoots his shot, she gives him his number, they go out on a date, they go skating. The relationship, she meets the family likes her, and then they get down the road, and after you get past the first time, there's intimacy, and then what are we going to do with one another? And I just love the way that Tanya challenges him to not quit and to figure out solutions, getting over to Paris, and she's very stern with him. And then in turn, he also comes back to her and says, well, you just being a receptionist, at that doctor's office, when you going to go back and finish nursing school. So I like that there's conflict between them that helps them take the next step that they may need to be as they can. It's much like me and my wife, when we met and how we got to where we are now and all the things that we've achieved. And we couldn't have stayed who we were when we first met. So I just love that. And Tanya's there for Elijah along all of these different hurdles that he faces throughout this coming of age story is what it is at the core of it. Okay. So the one of my last points. I'm trying to write this time down. My last point is the spoiler. Two spoilers actually. Niecy Nash, who plays Elijah's mom, she doesn't make it to the end of the movie. But it gives it realness. It gives we always make grit and grittiness synonymous with the street stuff. But being in a family and coming of age it's tough no matter what walk of life you're in. And so by Niecy Nash not making it to the end of the film, this is what makes us. This is what how we become adults. This is the circle of life, for lack of a better word. Second spoiler. Elijah is good at this sommelier stuff, and he's very passionate about wine, and you can get that through the whole movie. He goes over there, he makes the sacrifice to pay for the money to take the trip to Paris. He goes to war over. He fights through his mother perishing, his mother passing away. While he's over in Paris, he fights through that, and and then he comes back and has to deal with his dad one-on-one without his mom's involvement, being the peacemaker. And he goes to take this exam to be a sommelier, which they tell you very early on that this test is difficult as hell. And like I said, spoiler alert, I love that he didn't pass the test. But I like that his dad came alongside him to help him get there. And I like how he handled not passing the test. And I like, it's gonna be these times as young black men and young black women and getting into these careers, you're gonna want to lash out at some people who don't look like you and blame others. But I like that this white dude that told him he didn't pass, man, he was the dopest individual to tell him you didn't pass. But he told him you did all of this stuff great. You got a lot of game in this thing right here. But it's these little 2 or 3 different things that you got to work on. And I just like that exchange. And like I said, and I like that that he didn't, it's not that happy ending that, and that cliche happy ending. So I dug the way that they did that. Did I get into the, I'm afraid if I even mentioned it. So that's pretty much it, man. I would just recommend checking it out right now. We have plenty of time to, to watch movies like this. I'd be very interested to know, what you thought about it. I don't know if I mentioned it earlier. I might have ran past it. But like I said, man, I thought I said, I give it an A. I enjoyed it. Shout out to Datari Turner, and it's just a great alternative to like I guess what would be considered urban film or African American films. Check out Uncorked. Like I said, my name is Wood. Thanks for rocking with me. That's about it, man. Like I end all of this stuff, man. You don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great, which Uncorked and Elijah really personifies that whole mantra. But hey, I'm out of here, man. One.